And if you want to feel happier, enjoy life more, be at more peace, be calmer, need less sleep is always great, have better intuition to make better decisions more quickly, and lose the neuroticisms, if they exist, that have been in your system. Maybe you want to label or diagnose them. I like to call everything patterns that you can de-pattern, but we all have a different system, so I'll let you be the one who knows the most about yourself. But it makes sense to do everything as efficiently as we can. So I want to shift into the first bullet. And again, for everybody who joined new, if you have any questions or comments, please post them as soon as they come to mind, and I'll do my best to include them. So in this first bullet, if you want to figure out how to live in a golden age or heaven on earth, where life is literally the absolute best you can imagine in this timeline, for those of you who work with things like timelines and shifting dimensions, pretty woo concept, but it can be fun and useful. So what does it mean to have heaven on earth? I'm not talking about a religious description in a traditional Western Old Testament popular culture characterization. I'm talking about the best version of life and reality on earth that you believe is logically possible, however it happens. Maybe the governments of the world unify and take half their military budgets or 3/4 and invest it in cleaning up the world, sharing incredible innovations that further our quality of living, and help people open their hearts and heal from their traumas. That's a possibility. The probability of that happening in a day is low. In a month or a year, I think is a little lower, but that's probable, right? So heaven on earth or golden age is a rational, grounded concept of the best type of world we can imagine. Now, I personally have a pretty big imagination, and I'm also quite ambitious. In Magic is Real, in my book, in chapter 13, The Future of Magic, I talk about building a new city, a city of Atlantis reborn, like the city of Atlantis of our countries, our culture, our world's past, which was the epitome of the golden age of our planet, and for those who believe or researched or know, of our galactic civilization. So what does it mean to shift the world into a golden age and to experience it for yourself? So this is really where practical and spirituality have had a schism, because a lot of people in spiritual communities, myself included, for various points of time, we could isolate ourselves, live in a bubble, be in a bubble, only talk to or watch or listen to or expose ourselves to things that nourish us and keep us in wonderful states. And if something does it, well, let them be healed, or I'm not going to, pollute myself with that energy. And that's avoidance, just practically. And when I saw Marianne Williamson in person for the first time, before she announced her candidacy for president, she said, if you're a spiritual person and you want to make a big impact in the world, get into politics, get off your meditation cushion. And what she was saying there, you could take it as a projection given her career choices, but if you take it on an individual template, a customizable basis, she's saying, don't just imagine a world. Don't just imagine a world with more peace, better environment, higher quality education, better communication, more trust, more openness, more kindness and love, more creativity, basic things that I can guarantee any decent country, any decent city, it can, measure and has allocated projects and money for. But making these things happen outside of a direct, immediate circle of friends or tribe or wherever you are takes acting and working in the world, and doing so very efficiently. It might take studying global change. It might take studying group and social psychology. It might require getting a degree if you really need to do that. So when you serve and when you show up day to day in a world that you don't like, in a world where you selectively read certain news stories because others hurt you or scare you or bother you or annoy you, a lot of that's avoidance. And I myself very much try to only focus on things that relate to my expertise and some worldly knowledge things. So I'm not saying don't look at something if it's not relevant to you, don't jump into a distraction. What I'm saying is, if you really want to practically focus on your goal in the world, in your life, it's good to know what the world and how your life relates to it is in the practical, grounded material plane. So the bridge for that is the root chakra and the second chakra. The third chakra, the Manipura, solar plexus chakra, that's personal power, will, and digestion in general, right? And so having the will to act, if you're watching this and you've decided you might have that or you might be building that, having the relationship skills, the comfort to work with any person you need to work with. Maybe they're not loving and huggy and full of eye contact and compliments and kindness and nonviolent communication. But if you have to work with a certain person, a politician, for example, who might embody a completely different characterology, maybe even a person who is a materialist, a psychopath, a sociopath, who knows? How can you find a way to be at peace in your own system, get the job done, win the battle, achieve the mission, and not have to heal them, or not need them to change, or not think, oh, an interaction with them is going to pollute me and affect my karma, right? Because at the highest levels, if you don't know this deep down, you might have encountered it in mystery teachings. If not, I'm happy to share my wizard school with you, and my book with you, and my YouTube and Instagram, and all the stuff where I go into this. We create our own reality. And we are, as God, Goddess, all souls across time, across space. So that person that you're judging or condemning, that, characterology of an evil politician, for example, that's you at some level. That's a life you have lived, are living, are going to live based on your perspective. So you can have compassion, but if your goal is to clean the oceans and you have an economic incentive so that politician can push the bill forward and get reelected because this measure also creates jobs and doesn't, build the debt of wherever it came from, then that's being extremely practical. And if your spiritual mission, if your transmission, if your purpose in this life is to clean the ocean, then you're achieving your goal without being attached. So this is where the snake eating its tail comes in, the Ouroboros. If you think about it, what does it mean to surrender attachments? Well, if you surrender all attachments, that's also being attached to certain spiritual concepts. That's being aware that, as the Kabbalion says, a major Hermetic text, the all is in all. God is in everything. Now you can flip all the stuff that I shared to the examples and the terminology that fits to you and the vocabulary that fits to you. If I use different vocabulary each time, like every version of God or Goddess or Flying Spaghetti Monster or Matrix or Source or probability, it would just get way too wordy. So, please substitute that fits your paradigm. So thinking about this, working with somebody who you don't like, getting done what you need to do, feeling joyful and inner peace at all times, and not having to eat extra stuff or smoke or drink stuff or escape or, need that vacation to restore yourself, but you are in a state where you're uncorruptible and you're so pure that nothing can touch you. And you can be a fierce warrior badass. And there's so many paths to all those things. But that's what I'm talking about as far as integrating these things together with this idea of the golden age. So let's see, I don't see any comments yet. If any questions or thoughts or requests come up, please comment. Struggling with being grounded. So this is something that I think a lot of us have experienced. A lot of people where I am in the Bay Area are using psychedelics and having spiritual experiences. And there's a lot of ways that can be done right, balancing the biochemistry, working with a professional who's been trained for over a decade, led many ceremonies, knows the right dosage, knows how to help you balance your biochemistry, knows if you have any medical conditions, if you should do it. And there's an ideal setting for that stuff. And MAPS and CIIS and other organizations show that data. But a lot of people don't use psychedelics properly. And even if you're not somebody who's experimented with or used well or not well or curious about psychedelics, there is still the phenomenon of getting in these really high enlightened states, having kundalini experiences, which for some people can seem like being manic, having dark nights of the soul, which for some can seem like being depressed, and having just mystical experiences, going to India, experience telepathy, seeing levitation, affecting the weather. I've experienced all this stuff. I've had blue light come out of my hand, like physical light in front of a witness, right? I've had a lot of mystical, woo, funky things. So, telekinesis, like a lot of it. I've had materializations. Things appear out of thin air near me and fall to the ground and people see it. And I've had mentors who that happened to as well.